Bobby Fitz here in just a second. And we're good? Are we good, Grandy? Okay.
Foster City Unite.
Not just Foster City. I don't want to put this guy's address out on the air.
Oh, you can.
I literally think, so there's these cul-de-sacs. I mean, a lot of cities have cul-de-sacs, but there's these cul-de-sacs in Foster City in a certain neighborhood that sort of, there's one street that goes down the middle, and then there's two cul-de-sacs.
I know a person who lived in the other sack.
Those
two sacks
outside.
Inside.
No, they're outside.
Sorry, my fault.
Outside.
Yeah.
But anyway, and there's probably a total of 10 houses on each side of the cul-de-sac. And I do believe that our next guest literally lives on the other side cul-de-sac in one of those 10 houses opposite to the one that I grew up in. Do I have that right? Are you still there, Bobby Fitz?
No, I don't live there anymore.
Oh, okay, but you did, right? You did.
If you look for Bob Fitzgerald in Foster City, you're going to run into Bob Sr., and you don't want any part of that. I'll tell you that right now.
Tell you what, he would tell us a thing or two.
Look out.
Yeah. But you did, though, right? You did live there.
Oh, no, I lived in Foster City for many, many years.
Yeah,
yes.
Yeah. How are you, buddy?
I'm doing good, guys. How are you?
We're doing good. We're being radio hosts, so we're everybody's yelling about Andrew Wiggins, and I don't think any of us are exactly sure why. But what is your takeaway in terms of where the Warriors are right now as he comes back into the fold?
Well, I mean, tomorrow will be the first time they've kind of had the full roster because Andrew is back and Podziemski is back and Chris Paul is back and Draymond is back and Steph is back. And so I'm excited. I mean, they're playing Milwaukee, who hasn't lost since the All-Star break, and they're amazing. But no, for the Warriors, for this final 22 games, they're about as healthy as they've been all year. And they're 13-4 in their last 17 games. And since Draymond returned, they've been top 5 offense, top 5 defense. So I'm optimistic on where it's going to take for them to go for the stretch run. The math does not work in terms of where it's going to be in playoff seedings, but they're going to be in the postseason. The top 10 in the West are already set. It's just a matter of who finishes 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and what are the matchups and what is the path.
Why has Draymond been able to unlock the Wiggins-Kuminga combination?
Because, Dibs, he can play center. And what it does at the speed center is that normally if you're going smaller, you're going to get killed on the boards, except the Warriors are a top 3 rebounding team. And if you're going to go smaller, you're going to get killed in the paint. And, you can have some Jokic nights, but by and large, the bigs can't post up Draymond. He just plays. He's got the 7'3" wingspan. He's a generational defensive talent. He is super tough. And then offensively, he'll get Steph going. He knows what to do with Kuminga. He's encouraging Wiggins to play downhill and post up. And he's just always been the heartbeat of this team. And so, he revs hot. Everybody knows that. That's been much discussed. But they're not the same without him. And so Draymond comes back, and here comes the engine. And then, the improvement of Kuminga, the improvement of Moses Moody, the improvement and find of Brandon Podziemski, and the depth of GP2 and guys like Trace Jackson-Davis and Clay being willing to go to the bench and kind of make that second unit better. There's a lot of good things where they're headed, and they've got to make up for the fact that they've probably kicked away 7 or 8 games, which would make their record a lot better than it is. And, now they need a finishing kick to put themselves in the best position in a just absolutely loaded Western Conference.
Bob Fitzgerald with us here on Willard and Dibs, talking Dubs basketball, back in action against Milwaukee tomorrow night. Got some questions about that matchup, but we'll get to that in a little bit. Hey, Bob, Steve says that Wiggins will start, Moody stays in the rotation. Steve also told us last week, my gosh, an 11 rotation is almost unheard of. Are the Warriors playing too many players?
Well, I mean, yes and no. It's like in the playoffs, you cut to 8 or 9 for sure. With so many games and so many road games, you got guys that just their bodies are barking at various points in time. And so I always remember Sean Livingston, who was so good. He would tell me before a game, he's like, Fitz, I feel bouncy. And that meant, okay, the knee's good and his energy's good, and look for something for Dot that night. And then there were days where he's like, I don't got it. So, in a perfect world, you'd like to have this set rotation, but I really think Steve is managing based on matchups. If you're playing Brook Lopez and Giannis, then maybe you've got your Saric and Trace Jackson-Davis in there. If you're playing the Clippers and it's a lot of Paul George and Powell and Harden and those guys, then maybe you're playing Moody and GP2 and going more smaller and streamlined. But, yeah, I mean, they've got 10, 11 guys that can definitely play, and it's a juggling act. That's why I laugh. You guys do a good job and kind of balance it. But I do laugh at a lot of the media where, like, the Warriors win in Brooklyn, and Guy Santos played all these minutes, right? And it's not, hey, what a great job by Guy Santos. Let's go find someone to kick in the groin who didn't finish the game. Hey, Clay, you weren't out there in the finishing lineup. Is that what we do now after wins? This guy's got to finish, or this guy's got to play well, or this guy's got to have a game. Like, why is everything I'm going to kick someone in the shins rather than just kind of celebrate the victory and point to the people that were responsible for that? I don't get it. It's, I guess, the world we live in now, but to me, it's kind of laughable.
Yeah, you remember, Bob, from when you did it day in and day out. It's a little bit different now, unfortunately, than it was, but if it bleeds, it leads, and so it's easier to pick on who didn't as opposed to praise who did, which leads me to my next question about Steph Curry, who's been struggling. Bob, why do you think that Steph has had a little bit of a scuffle here since the All-Star break?
Because he's about turned 36.
And a baby on the way.
Because he's missed 3 games all season and had the weight of the world on his shoulders. The one thing we talked about is, with Wiggins out or Draymond out or Chris Paul out or whatever, the one constant was Steph. And if you watch him, he's got 6 guys guarding him on, every time the Warriors play anybody. And so historically, guards of his size don't last past like age 32. So what he's doing is already generationally different than anything we've seen in the NBA, but he's human. And so I think there are lulls. It is not surprising, and it was tragic and horrendous, but the Warriors had the time off after Decky passed away. And emotionally, it took a long time to recover from that, and I don't think a lot of guys ever will. But physically, not playing for all those days, look at the stretch Steph had when we came back. He was as hot as he's ever been because he had physical rest. Then you come after the All-Star break, he didn't have an All-Star break. He's flying overnight to Indiana because we had the rescheduled game in Utah. He's got to do all the stuff for the league, and the All-Star, he comes back. Then we're playing, we go back on the road again. Like, he's human. And so I think you've seen some games where his percentages aren't what they are normally, and then you've had some games where, he's been spectacular. But, what he's doing at 36 is unprecedented. So, I do think you're going to see some good games. I think you have some games where, he's human. And what the Warriors have not done, and really the league hasn't done, is they not doing the load management. He's not missing 17 games or 15 games. He's missed 3. And there's probably games he should miss to better optimize his performance. But to his credit, he knows everybody's there to see him. So he saddles up and plays.
Fitz, they're playing so much better. They're still not beating real good teams. Do you consider them a title contender?
It's interesting. I think what you see in sports, and we've been blessed, with the Giants. Were the Giants the best team in baseball? No. But they were the best tournament team. Like if you got to run a marathon, could you win? I don't know. If you had to run a 100-yard dash, maybe you could. Now, the difference in basketball versus baseball is you don't have a best of 3 and a best of 5 and all that. Every series is best of 7. And so if you sit logically and say, hey, can you go beat, OKC in 7 games and then Minnesota in 7 games and then Denver in 7 games and then Milwaukee in 7 games? No, that doesn't look very logical. But if you take each series in and of itself and the Warriors get to focus on you and just you, and you've got Steph Curry and you've got Draymond Green and you got Klay Thompson and you got Chris Paul and you got Steve Kerr, and you go win the first game on the road, and then all of a sudden it's all that competition that's in their DNA and all that championship experience. Teams, there's a reason the Heat make the finals from the 7th seed. There's a reason the Lakers make the Western Finals out of the play-in. There's just something in a shorter period. What if a guy rolls an ankle for the other team or this or that? Like, you never know. So, but are they, oh no, they're going to win 65 games and they're going to roll teams? No, those days are over with. the Durant era where they were just more talented than everybody. That's not here. But you think OKC and Minnesota, these teams are lining up that, hey, we hope we get the Warriors in round one? I don't think so.
And which of those teams, Bob, would you think would give the Warriors the best opportunity to maybe pull off a mild upset in that first round, Minnesota or OKC?
Either one. That's why people are chomping at the bit. Like, can they get the 6th seed? Well, if the 6th seed means you face Denver,
oh boy,
or the 6th seed means you face the Clippers in round one, give me the 7th seed.
Yeah.
So, and it's not that OKC is not incredible. They are. And it's not that Minnesota is not incredible. They are too. But they don't have the skins on the walls that the Nuggets do as the defending champs, or just the generational experience of Harden and Paul George and Kawhi and stuff like that. So, give me the teams that if the Warriors went to OKC and won game one, or they went to Minnesota and won game one, that all of a sudden a team without that full experience would go, whoa, wait a minute. Now, that doesn't mean they're not more talented and they couldn't beat the Warriors, but the Warriors in a 7-game series, I watched in 2022 every series. It was like, okay, they go beat Denver. You didn't have Jamal Murray and Michael Porter, but the Warriors beat them, and they didn't have Steph. He was coming in off the bench. But then when they got to, like, the Memphis series and then the Dallas series, and Wiggins was able to lock onto Doncic, and then they got to Boston and they found certain matchups and things that worked and that they couldn't deal with Curry. Like, I tell you, these series where it's just matchups and know-how and experience and dealing with pressure and playing well on the road, there's a lot that the Warriors have done that just haven't been done. So, the dynasty is going to end at some point. Everything does in sports, but they got a puncher's chance to be out there. I mean, I don't think Ali and Joe Frazier were calling up Ernie Shavers, 6 days a week to try to get that guy in the ring all the time, because you never knew when Ernie Shavers might catch you in the side of the head and knock you out.
Bobby Fitz is with us here on Willard and Dibs. Question I want to ask you, especially with Andrew coming back. I think great teams are very defined in terms of their roles, and it's one of the struggles for these Warriors. Who is there to, in your mind?
Oh, they're off guard or their second best player?
Their second option.
Their
second option.
That's a great question. In 2022 in the playoffs, after Steph, Wiggins was the second best player. And he also led the team in three-point percentage that year, which nobody ever gets as a trivia question, because they always guess Steph, Clay, and Jordan Poole, but it was actually Andrew Wiggins who had the highest three-point percentage that year. Ideally, if I needed a bucket, I'm running some Draymond pick and roll action, but let me come at it this way. If Jonathan Kuminga on a short mid-range post-up can be your second best option, then the Warriors have all kinds of chances in the playoffs. I don't know if it's there yet, but if I have all that perimeter shooting, but I can ISO or cross match and put JK on somebody and let him bulldoze somebody to the rim when I need to in crunch time, now the Warriors look real different than they have in previous years.
I know you watch this team day in and day out, Bob, but are you at all surprised with the explosive leap that Jonathan's made since, say, early December till now?
Surprised. It's year 3, so he should be better, and he is. But the full jump, Dibs, it's not been a slow and steady November, December. It's been like mid-January, boom, like huge leap forward. And that's come with playing time, and it's come with him stopping the turnovers, stopping the three-point shooting, and stopping the needless fouling. And those were the 3 things that were within his control that hampered his improvement the first couple months of this year. And so I credit JK, and I credit the coaching staff, and I credit the patience. I credit him making it the most of the opportunity. And that's the beauty of young guys is, what can I do to help my team win, and what can I stop doing that is a detriment to us winning? And once those things intersect, then you've got a hell of a player. So and I'll say this, offensive rebounding wise, continued improvement on defense, continued relentless running of the floor, developing more of a set shot 3 where it's more reliable. we haven't even seen the ceiling for Kuminga. He's 21 years old.
Yep.
Like, what's he going to look like when he's 25? You know, he has a chance to really, really be something in this league, and that's what gets you super revved up and super excited. Plus, he's the nicest kid in the world, you know, and his life story and what he's done for him and his family and his brothers and moving to a new country and doing all this at such a young age is just beyond remarkable. So, you know, so he's the kind of kid that you pull for with both hands every day.
I think he's going to do a lot more with that next contract, too.
Right.
Bob Fitzgerald, great to have you, my friend. Hey, do you think Giannis is playing tomorrow night? I know you league circle people. You know things.
Well, he's only missed 3 games all year, and he tried to warm up before that Clipper game. I don't know if you saw the warm-up.
Yeah, did you see that? The video did not look like he was in any sort of comfort, Bob.
Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you what, you know, he loves to play. The Bucks are undefeated since the All-Star break. Had a great comeback against the Clippers last night, which I watched. If he has a chance to be 85% effective, he'll be out there for sure, because he's just not what, I mean, he's missed 3 games. Like, he's not one of those guys that dips out at all. So if I had to say right now, hey, is he going to play? I would think he does play tomorrow.
Wow.
All right.
Okay.
All right. Well, we'll be watching you, and we thank you for today, my friend.
Hey, you guys are the best. Anytime you need, just call.
Okay.
Thanks, Bob.
Bob Fitzgerald.
All right, see you guys.
Yep. See you, bud. There he is. Bob Fitzgerald on Willard and Dibs.